Okay, so I have this disc of oak. I'm not 100% sure. It looks like these two pieces are probably red oak and this piece might be white oak, but it's wood that was salvaged from an old church pew. It's still got the finish on this side, so that's gonna mess up my tools when I start cutting on it, but we'll get the finish off eventually. You can see the boards I used weren't even all the same thickness. I just glued them together flush on one side, and then I'll make this the top of the platter. So I found the center, I laid it out, cut the disc, found the center and bored a hole for my woodworm screw. Because this is only, I don't even know if it's 1.5 inches thick, I don't want to make that hole any deeper than I need to. So I've made that hole about 1/2 inch deep, and I'll use a spacer to adjust how much engagement I'm getting on the woodworm screw. Okay, now this particular woodworm screw is the one that came with my first chuck I bought about 20 years ago, and it's quite a bit shorter than the ones they come with now, so I don't need much of a spacer. On this one I would need a thicker spacer if I was using one of the newer ones. What do we got? There's a... And this isn't something that I do that often, but I do have some spacers up on the shelf there from times I have needed to do this. So I've probably only got about 3/8 of an inch of screw sticking out there right now. Just under 3/8 actually, but that should be plenty to hold it for what I need to do. Okay, so I've gotten all the finish off. Before I start truing up the edges of the disc where I'll be encountering end grain, I'll sharpen the gouge. I'll start taking this corner up. Okay, so I'll be mounting this on a recess on my number 2 jaws. So I want to recess about 2 inches or just a little more in diameter. Because this is a plate or a platter, on a bowl you normally go for 1/3 of the diameter as the base. That's just a rule of thumb, give you something to shoot for. It's not cast in stone or anything. It's a pleasing proportion. On a plate, if you only had 1/3 of the diameter as the base, it would be pretty tippy. On a plate, I'm going to say half. It should be more like half of the diameter. And that's really not going to tell me what I need to know. So my diameter is about 11.5 inches. So half of 11.5 is 5 3/4. And that's obviously not correct. Oh, yes. So my base needs to be 5 3/4 wide. So half of 5 3/4 is 2 7/8. So that's 6 inches. So that's maybe the outer limits of where I want the base to be. It'll give me something to shoot for anyway. So that needs to be the lowest point of the bottom. And right now, you probably can't see it, but it's got a bulge in the middle. So I'm probably going to lose almost all that recess by the time I'm done and have to go back in again. So it comes in from the foot and then out to about here and then curves back to the rim. Depending on what I want to do with the top surface of the rim, I may wind up losing some diameter there, but we'll see. Actually, I think at this point I'm going to go to shear scraping, just to clean up the ripples on this surface, and it's reasonably clean. It's not bad for tear out at all. Well, maybe I should do that first. This surface that's going to be the bottom, I haven't taken anything off there since my initial roughing leveling cuts when the gouge was dull. So it's torn out a little bit, so I better make sure that I'm going to have see how much I need to take off there to get a clean surface. Because that might mean I have to take more out here, might mean I have to make the recess deeper, might mean I have to change this curve. So I probably should have done that earlier. Okay, so that looks fine. And I've got a nice clean surface there now. That looks good. So I'll just shear scrape this area here and it'll be ready for sanding on the bottom surface. Okay, so if I'm going to add embellishments of some sort to a piece, I sand through all my coarse grits right up to just before I start with my final grit. Then I put the embellishments on, because if I put them on earlier, I'm probably going to sand them right off. So I'll see about putting some embellishments on here. I'm just going to use the toe of my skew as a scraper here. Okay, which brings up a point. Normally you want the tool rest as close as you can get it. But with that tool rest that close, I've got the bevel riding on the tool rest, not the side of the tool. If I was using a parting tool, it would be even worse. So I'm going to back that up so that I've got the flat of the tool riding on the tool rest. Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that, at least for the moment. I may choose to do something a little later on, because I'll be coming back to do something about this checking recess later on, so at that point, if I choose to add to or change in any way those embellishments, I can do it then. So I'll just sand with my final grit. So that's all I had sticking into there on oak, on a good hard dense wood. That's plenty. That's only about 3/8 of an inch. Now I wouldn't try that with a softer wood or a punky wood, or, well, I wouldn't use a screw chuck in end grain anyway, but for a good hard sound wood, that's all you need to hold it on there.